Most people assumed the writing on the wall was just a prank, a creepy local joke that got out of hand. But when people started checking the details, one thing didn't make sense. The question painted across the region referred to a real police case, a real skeleton, a real tree. In 1943, 4 boys found the remains of a woman stuffed inside a hollow elm in an English wood. Police never identified her. And then, months later, someone began writing a question on walls across the West Midlands. Who put Bella in the witch elm? Here's the problem. Police had never released a name. So who was writing on those walls? And how did they know to call her Bella? That question has never been answered. And the graffiti has never stopped. Hagley Wood, Worcestershire, England, April 18, 1943. Britain was in the middle of the Second World War. Food was rationed, meat was scarce. So 4 local boys did what plenty of boys did back then. They slipped into a private estate to poach. Birds' eggs, rabbits, anything worth taking. It was a Sunday. The woods were quiet, part of the private Hagley Hall estate. The boys were teenagers with slingshots and empty stomachs, and trespassing felt like a small crime in a world at war. One of the boys, Bob Farmer, spotted a massive old witch elm and decided to climb it, hoping to find a nest in the hollow of the trunk. He looked down into the darkness inside the tree, and something looked back. At first, he thought it was an animal skull. That's what he told himself. He reached down into the hollow and lifted it out. And that's when the small details registered. A patch of hair still clinging to the bone, crooked human teeth, a human skull resting inside a living tree. Let me ask you, if you found that at 15 on land you weren't supposed to be on, would you tell anyone? The boys made a decision. Bob Farmer placed the skull back inside the tree. Then all 4 swore an oath. They had never been in Hagley Wood, and they had never seen anything. They were poaching on a lord's estate. Getting caught meant real trouble. So they walked home and tried to pretend the woods were empty. But secrets like that have weight. And the youngest boy, Tommy Willits, couldn't carry it. He lay awake, seeing that hollow trunk every time he closed his eyes. If you've ever tried to sleep on a secret, you know exactly what that feels like. And if you're enjoying how this story is unfolding, do me a favor and subscribe. Because what the police pulled out of that tree is worse than anything the boys imagined. Tommy broke. He told his father everything. His father went to the police. When officers reached the witch elm, they realized this was not some old accident. It was a tomb. Wedged inside the hollow trunk was an almost complete human skeleton. With it, a crepe-soled shoe, fragments of clothing, a cheap gold wedding ring, and in the dirt near the tree, something that made even the investigators uneasy: the bones of a human hand, severed, scattered and buried apart from the body. The remains went to Professor James Webster, one of Britain's leading forensic pathologists. His findings turned a strange discovery into a murder investigation. The victim was a woman around 35 years old. She had been dead for at least 18 months, placing her death around October 1941 in the darkest days of the war. Pressed deep inside her mouth was a wad of taffeta fabric. Webster concluded she had likely been suffocated. But it was his final observation that no one could shake. The hollow of that tree was so tight that a body could never have been forced into it after death, once the limbs had stiffened, which means she was pushed down into the trunk while she was still warm, possibly within moments of her death. Whoever did it knew those woods, knew that tree, and intended for her never ever to be found. Now here's the question the police couldn't answer. In wartime Britain, with identity cards, ration books, and registration for every citizen, how does a grown woman simply vanish and nobody reports her missing? The investigation checked dental records and missing persons reports across the country. Nothing matched. No name, no family, no one looking for her. The case went cold. But the story didn't end there. Around Christmas 1943, a message appeared, chalked onto a wall in the West Midlands. Who put Bella down the wych elm? Then another, and another. The same question in the same handwriting, spreading across walls in the region. Sometimes the spelling changed, Bella Luabella, as if the writer knew her by more than one name. Police were stunned. They had never released details suggesting a name. Yet someone out there was calling the skeleton Bella, casually, familiarly, like they had known her. Officers appealed publicly for the writer to come forward. They never did. Think about what that means. Either the graffiti writer was a ghoul with a lucky guess, or somewhere in those blacked out wartime streets, a person was walking around who knew exactly who she was and exactly who put her in that tree, and chose to taunt everyone with it. So which is more terrifying to you? A killer who confesses in chalk, or a town that never asks? The theories became infamous. Because of the severed hand, some claimed Bella was killed in an occult ritual, a black magic execution in the woods. A respected university anthropologist publicly supported the theory, pointing to old beliefs that a severed hand carried dark power and that a spirit trapped inside a tree could never rise to haunt its killer. Then, in 1953, a journalist received an anonymous letter signed only Anna of Claverley. It alleged that Bella had died because she knew too much, that she was connected to a Nazi spy ring feeding information to the Germans, and had been silenced. Investigators found parts of the story allegedly checked out, but it was never confirmed. Researchers later tied the theory to a German cabaret singer, until modern historians found evidence she had died in Berlin, and the lead collapsed. And then came the final twist. Decades later, when modern DNA testing could finally have given Bella her name back, researchers discovered the remains were gone. Somewhere along the way, her bones had vanished from storage, lost. To this day, no one can test them because no one can find them. And the graffiti, it never stopped. It has reappeared for 80 years, most famously in white paint on a stone obelisk overlooking those same woods. It still asks the same question. Who put Bella in the wych elm? If this case got under your skin, hit the like button and tell me in the comments who you think Bella was. A spy? A victim of the occult? Or just a woman the world decided not to miss? Because here's the part I can't let go of. Somebody wrote that first message, somebody knew her name, and statistically that somebody lived out the rest of their life, quietly, among their neighbors, and died with the answer. If that thought disturbs you, wait until you hear about the woman found murdered in Norway's Ice Valley, carrying passports for identities that never existed. That story is on your screen right now.